Alrighty, this is We the People News. One more time. Never look straight forward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Alright? You know, this word armed goes into many definitions, right? Education of the law or education in law. Uh, you are armed with knowledge. Okay? And so we need to always remember, even with we have the right to carry arms of the Second Amendment. That is actually several different types of definitions. We keep thinking that they're talking about, guns and all that, but all in general, arms is just anything that protects you. Okay, so this right here is going to help arm you into future events. Okay.
Always said that to these ends, to secure these rights, government are instituted among the people to protect their rights. Isn't that what we set up this great experiment known as the United States of America?
That's it. It's the only reason to protect their rights.
Okay. Here's another interesting tidbit. Rule number 12, 90% of all convictions are obtained through admissions and confessions. Did you guys know that?
No.
90%. 90%, and this is everything. I'm not just talking about like traffic cases. I'm talking like people brought in for murder.
Okay. And I'm going to let you guys know, right? When you go in there, and I said this through hundreds of videos, it's hard to believe after all these years, right? When you go in there, they say to fill out this form, not guilty, guilty, no contest. What did you just do? Rule 12. You just convicted yourself.
And whatever. Any and all criminal cases that are prosecuted by the state.
Wow.
90% of them. So again, if you shut your mouth and you don't answer questions, you've got a 90% chance of winning your case. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like my little thing here in the bottom? Do you see why we keep our mouth shut?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't need to give the government any more fuel, ammunition. We don't need to give them any more ammunition than they already have.
I plead the fifth.
Right? You have a right against self-incrimination. You need to use that. Okay, so here's another interesting thing. Have either of you ever been arrested? I'm just curious.
Yes, I've been arrested.
You've been arrested, okay?
It's a great.
And I'm going to pause there again, right? But the clerk, when you say, I'm not going to sign this or check mark it or whatever, right? Well, they'll say you have to. Are you now giving me legal advice? Have you just now become my attorney? Challenge it, people. Even with driver's license and all that, and they say you can't do something without prejudice on your driver's license and all rights reserved, and they say you can't do it. Are you an attorney? Are you giving me legal advice? Well, no. Well, I have a right to do this. My attorney tells me I can do this. You challenge it.
Story, and it was fraudulent nonsense.
I bet it was. When you were arrested, did they take you to the jail and they tried to take your fingerprints and your picture?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So this is how belligerent of a claimant of his rights that George Gordon was. And I say was because he has since passed away. When he was arrested and they would take him to the jail, he would refuse to allow them to take his fingerprints or his picture because he had a right against self-incrimination. You take my fingerprints, you're going to implicate me on a crime somewhere else. He said, I will not allow you to take my fingerprints without a court order. Go get a court order. Until then, I'm not giving you a dang thing. Well, then we have to take your picture. You're not going to take my picture. That violates my religious beliefs. My religious beliefs. That's a graven image.
You know, I didn't dawn on him actually saying that when I first watched the video. Maybe because grandbaby was running amok and all that. But in my previous videos, have I or have I not said that? Right? And there we go again. Press on. Okay? He's not resisting. Okay? He's just not assisting in his kidnapping. Right? And went in there. They didn't get fingerprint. They didn't even let him. He didn't even undress himself. They was forced to undress him. And all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a bunch of woo. So press on at the time was press on. It's press hard, harder, or something like that. Now, he stands on his conviction. He means what he says. Okay, I wasn't in jail with him, so I don't know if that's true. In fact, it's hearsay for me. Okay, but I have a tendency to believe him. All right.
He wouldn't let him do any of this stuff without a court order.
That's great.
Now,
did they get a court order?
What's that?
Did they ever get a court order?
He said it a couple times they did.
Okay.
But it's what's interesting though is he said that there were a number of times where they just said, "No, we're going to tackle you," and they just tackled him and forced it against his will. So he said, do you mean to tell me?
But that's battery, assault and battery.
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, he took these people to the cleaners.
Oh, good.
So he says, do you mean to tell me that if I don't comply with your demands, you're going to do this anyway, against my will and over my objections? Yes, we are. Okay, all right, then go right ahead. If that's what you're going to do. So again, if they're going to violate our rights, we're going to help them. So just remember, by keeping our mouths shut, 90% of the time we're going to win. Okay? Rule number 13. A pro se must never plead, but always stand mute when asked, how do you plead? Have you guys heard of that before?
No.
I just said that a little bit ago, right? But in my previous videos, before I started watching him and all that kind of stuff, this is why I told you, right? You incriminate yourself. I, per se, mark everything out, and I put a square box in there, and I put in there, innocent. Right or wrong, that's what I do. Okay? Or did.
So, this is something I thought was interesting too, but this is actually this is an acceptable plea. So there's actually 4 different pleas that you can enter when you go into a court. So, you walk into court, the judge says, okay, you're charged with such and such, such and such. Do you understand these charges as I've read them to you? And you said, yes. Okay, well, how do you plead? I plead not guilty. Okay? So by pleading not guilty, you're accepting the general appearance of that court.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the court may or may not have subject matter jurisdiction, that's yet to be determined, the court can actually move forward and prosecute you because you have voluntarily given the court your consent.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That is so true.
So if you say I am not guilty,
Mm-hmm.
that's voluntary consent.
Yep.
If you say I am guilty, that's voluntary consent.
Mm-hmm.
If you plead no contest, that's voluntary consent. So how do we plead without giving the court any type of consent? You plead, Your Honor, these charges before this court are not valid charges. This court has been divested of subject matter jurisdiction due to the lack of the pleadings filed by the prosecution, and I stand mute in this matter. Okay? That's an actual plea that you can do. You can do that in traffic court.
Same as null teal.
There's no such record. Yep. It's very much the same as what Brent Johnson talked about, null till record. No such record. Very same.
So
the
can you
difference
just
though
say,
is
I plead mute or I stand mute? Can you
I stand mute. Yep.
Okay. So you don't have to say anything else.
That's it.
Okay.
And then what's going to happen is the judge is going to go, well, the law authorizes me to enter a plea of not guilty for you to move on. Then you're going to say, objection, Your Honor. I am not asking the court to enter a plea on my behalf. Well, the law says I can do it, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to enter not guilty here. Your Honor, I want this objection on the record that you have just entered a plea on my behalf over my will, against my objections, and over my will, and against
Without my consent.
I can't even talk today. It's
Okay.
Friday. It's Friday. You guys can tell.
Under
Against
duress.
my will and over my objections. There we go. And the court is moving forward without my consent. Great.
All right, and then you can still ask him, "Are you acting as my attorney? Right? Are you giving legal advice?"
All right, this court's moving on. Your Honor, I have one more question. And this is where we can actually use the Brent Johnson approach. Yes, go right ahead. By the courts entering the plea of not guilty, was that a judicial determination, or are you practicing law from the bench?
There you go.
Oh.
You see, what did Brent say? The judge does not like to lose control of his courtroom. How is he going to answer that question? Can he answer that question without answering the question?
Without incriminating himself?
Without incriminating himself? No, that's not a judicial determination. Okay, so if it's not a judicial determination, then you must be practicing law from the bench. And guess what? That's a felony. No, I'm not practicing law from the bench. Okay, well then that must be a judicial determination. You said I'm not guilty. Thank you. Case dismissed.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Okay. So I've seen this before. Rise of the Republic says, I said I cannot plea. I still do not know the nature and the cause of the charges. You know, that's one approach. However, the reason why we say I stand mute is because that is a legally recognized form of pleading. They will know what that is, even though they're going to tell you that's not an acceptable plea. You're going to say, you're going to do what you're going to do, Your Honor. I stand mute in this matter. I am appearing here specially because I have heard that this court has history of depriving people of their life and liberty and property without coming into this court, and under fear, threat, and coercion and duress of that, I am here. But I'm not here appearing generally. I'm here appearing specially, demanding all of my rights, and I'm never waiving my rights ever. With that in mind, I plead I'm standing mute in this matter. Okay? So, that's rule number 13. Let's move on to rule number 14.
So this is 12 minutes. Alrighty. There we go. We're learning something. I'm not as clean as him, but I have spoken that way in other videos and all that kind of stuff. He is very good. Alright, I'm enjoying his YouTube channel. Till next time, this is We the People News.